approximately 200,000 miles of transmission.
It's often referred to as the largest and most complicated machine in the world.
Renewable energy resources have a lot of great attributes, but they also have some downsides.
It brings New Mexico electricity from places like the Palo Verde nuclear plant in Arizona and the coal-fired generators in the Four Corners. But few of us have any real conception of just what the electrical grid is.
Well, the transmission grid is usually referred to as the very high voltage facilities that are at 115,000 volts and above. Their main purpose is to move the energy from where it's generated to the population centers where it's consumed.
Well, if Thomas Edison were here today, he would completely understand how this grid works. So really, technically, nothing has changed. Over the last 20 years, peak demand has grown by 53%, but the ability to transmit energy has only grown by 12%.
It's a very difficult thing to keep this delicate balance between the generation and the load. Energy that's generated is consumed instantaneously. There's no storage. At the moment it's generated, it's consumed. It's delivered instantaneously. And the consumption level on the transmission system changes at every moment in time, literally. When we came into this room, we switched on these lights for this interview, and that changed the consumption level for this building.
At KNME's Secret Distribution Center, engineers work to balance use with generation. Redundancy requires that fossil fuel generators run offline to back up wind and solar.
Renewable resources, in terms of at least wind and solar, are intermittent resources. They're not able to generate electricity 24/7, day in and day out. It's not atypical for us to see maybe 200 megawatts of output from a wind farm drop down to the teens in a matter of 20, 30 minutes period of time, causing us to have to ramp up fossil generation.
Storage on the grid is just one problem that will have to be addressed if renewables are to have a significant impact.
And we often have a hard time finding an ideal site that's acceptable to the public for a transmission line. So the horizon for a transmission line for planning all the way to construction is more like 5 years or longer. Beginning in about the mid to late 90s, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission started promoting a policy of open access and wholesale competition. And this allowed new entrants into the wholesale market. They could independently develop generators and develop power purchase contracts with whoever they wanted to. And this caused the transmission system to be used in a way that it wasn't designed for.
Collectively, this represents approximately 200,000 miles of transmission that's managed by 500 stakeholders. So you just think of the bureaucratic sort of logistics of that. These renewable energy transmission processes have to get fast-tracked to the front of the line. I think that it's entering the collective consciousness that we just have to address this.
There are people that are looking at large-scale batteries, flywheels, capacitors, and other things. Maybe you put a wind facility on the eastern part of the state and balance it with a wind facility on the western part of the state. With compressed air energy storage, the thought is you maybe take wind energy that's generated at night when you don't need it. You use it to compress air into a cavern. During the daytime, when you hit your peak loads, you release that air through an expansion turbine to generate power at that point in time.
Whenever a user of electricity flips a switch on or off, it changes that consumption level, and a corresponding change in generation has to occur because we have to keep the system in balance. So when lights are turned off, literally we have to generate a little bit less energy on the other end of the system. When lights or motors or other devices are turned on, we have to generate a little bit more energy, and we have to watch that and keep that delicate balance at every moment in time. It's a very complicated, it's often referred to as the largest and most complicated machine in the world, a power system.
Power ups at 2934. I didn't hear you, but I know you opened the switch. Tell me.
Step 4, I said we completed step 16. We open and tag switch 43760.